Imagine the biggest, loudest, most extravagant party in history. The Jazz Age. The Roaring Twenties. Fortunes were being made overnight. The music never stopped. And it felt like the prosperity would never, ever end. Now imagine the worst hangover in history. Life savings? Gone. Banks? Boarded up. Millions of people, once proud, now standing in line for a scrap of bread. This was the Great Depression. How did the world go from one extreme to the other so unbelievably fast? And let's be honest, as you're watching this, you're probably thinking the same thing I am. What are the parallels to today? Let's break down how it happened. The party started after World War I. Soldiers returned home, the economy was booming, and a man named Henry Ford revolutionized production. His moving assembly line made cars so efficiently that the price of a Model T plummeted to just $290. To put that in perspective, as one of our viewers pointed out, that's the equivalent of less than $5,000 today. Can you imagine buying a brand new car for that price now? This insane affordability wasn't just for cars. Radios, washing machines, refrigerators, all became accessible. And if you didn't have the cash, no problem. Banks were handing out easy loans for everything. This kicked off the age of consumerism. And at the center of it all was the new national obsession: Wall Street. The stock market seemed like a can't-lose game. Everyone was in on it. But here's the secret, dangerous trick that was fueling the fire: buying on margin. It's just a fancy term for borrowing money to gamble on stocks. Here's how it worked. You'd put down, say, $10 of your own money. Your broker would then loan you the other $90 to buy a $100 stock. If that stock went up, fantastic. You'd sell it, pay back the $90 loan, and keep the huge profit. But what if it went down? The broker still wants his $90 back. Suddenly, you've been wiped out, and you're still deeply in debt. By 1929, the entire market was a glittering house of cards built on this exact kind of borrowed money, completely detached from reality. On October 29th, 1929, Black Tuesday, the house of cards came crashing down. Panic, selling, fortunes vanished. But here is the single most important thing to understand. The 1929 crash did not cause the Great Depression. It was just the trigger. The real catastrophe, the thing that turned a recession into a decade-long nightmare, was the collapse of the banking system. When people lost their money in the market, they rushed to the banks to pull out their savings, but the banks didn't have it. They had irresponsibly loaned it all out. And in 1929, there was no FDIC insurance. If your bank failed, your life savings just disappeared. Gone. Forever. We talk about billions of dollars being lost. But that number is so big, it's meaningless. It's the small stories that show the true human cost. One of our viewers shared a story about his grandfather, a farmer in Alabama. He said things got so bad that his grandfather had to take out a government loan for just $5. Not to buy a tractor, not to buy land. $5 simply to buy seeds for the next crop. That's how completely money had vanished from the American economy. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, the government made it worse. First, the Federal Reserve stood back and did nothing, allowing prices to fall in a death spiral called deflation. Then, in 1930, Congress passed the Smoot-Hawley tariff. The idea was to protect American jobs by making foreign goods super expensive.
A brilliant plan.
It backfired spectacularly. Other countries immediately retaliated, slapping their own tariffs on American goods. Global trade, the lifeblood of the world economy, collapsed by over 60%. It was the economic equivalent of setting your own house on fire to keep the neighbors out. By 1933, a quarter of the country was unemployed. It was in this desperation that Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected, promising a New Deal. He enacted massive reforms, but the most important, the ghost of the Depression that lives with us today, was the creation of the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. This is the single greatest lesson we learned. The very same insurance that protects your bank account right now, the reason you don't have to worry about your life savings vanishing if your bank has a bad day, was born directly from the ashes of those 9,000 failed banks. It is a permanent guardrail built from a national trauma. So in the end, what was it? Greed? Yes. Fear? Absolutely. But the Great Depression was more than that. It was a perfect storm of a fragile system built on debt, compounded by catastrophic policy errors. It's a chilling reminder of how quickly things can unravel. One of our viewers quoted the famous line, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And looking at the world today, you realize that understanding these warning signs, the dangers of speculative bubbles, the poison of protectionism, and the critical need for financial guardrails is more important now than it has ever been.